Hello, welcome back to my channel. So, you might be thinking, Grayson, you review movies. This is a video game. Well, no, actually, I'm not a movie reviewer. I'm a media reviewer, okay? If I wanted to make a video reviewing every single one of my stuffed animals while giving them elaborate backstories, I would. And I've thought about it. So I am totally within my realm of capabilities for this video. But anyways, a few weeks ago, I finally got myself a gaming console because I have not had one since high school. I got myself the Xbox Series S, and before any PlayStation diehard fans comment, okay, just save your breath. I don't care. I have no qualms with either console. I used a PS4 all throughout high school, but I just wanted an Xbox because my friends have one, and also it links up with my computer. Entertain while I grab my computer charger. Or don't. No, yeah, that's fine. Well, now that my fucking special guest has left, let me adjust. Anyways, along with getting myself the Xbox, I also got myself a few games. The notable ones for this video are the Arkham trilogy. I say trilogy because I didn't get Arkham Origins. I got like this pack that for some reason Arkham Origins wasn't included in. I know there are 4 Arkham games, okay? And if you're unfamiliar, I'm talking about a series of Batman games. Batman Arkham Asylum, which was released in 2009, Arkham City, released in 2011, Arkham Origins from 2013, and Arkham Knight from 2015. Arkham Knight is the final game in the series. However, if you're not new here, you know that I am a Jason Todd ride or die, and he's one of the main antagonists for that game, so I naturally started with the last game of the series. And I finally finished the game the other night, and I know that this video probably won't do, you know, crazy numbers because it's a video game, which I don't really talk about, and it's also a video game that came out 7 years ago, so this is not a trending topic, but I don't care because I don't just want to talk about this game, I need to talk about this game because it has taken over every waking thought I've had for the past few weeks. Arkham Knight is, dare I say it, one of the most perfect pieces of Batman media that isn't a comic. Almost. Let's talk about it. Now, before I get into this, I'm not looking at it too much from a video game critic perspective, but a storytelling one and a Batman one. I know there are a lot of critiques of the actual game aspects, and I have my own as well, but me saying it's almost perfect isn't because I think it would be perfect, but the Batmobile is used too much, or whatever. Before I get into what I think is the most detrimental part of this game, let's give some more background and compliments so you can actually understand how the pitfalls of this game are so detrimental. So, a recap. Non-spoiler free. This video will have spoilers. I don't really recommend you leaving though if you don't want spoilers, because I went into the game knowing a bunch that happened and I still really enjoyed the game, which may be an unpopular opinion, but I don't care. Arkham Knight follows Batman as he fights for the heart of Gotham City as Scarecrow has threatened to bomb the entire city with his fear toxin, causing Gotham to be evacuated save for the few no good doers that stayed behind to cause no good, leaving you as Batman to explore the 3 islands that make up the city as you try to defeat Scarecrow and his mysterious new partner, sidekick, the Arkham Knight, who is actually Jason Todd, who, if you don't know, is the second Robin following Dick Grayson. However, Jason is more commonly referred to as Batman's biggest failure, as Jason is no Grayson, haha, and died at the hands of the Joker. But he comes back to life and he's actually a way better character now. Why are my lights so dim? What the fuck? Wait, what happened to my lights? It says they're on. Wait, hello? Oh, Jesus. Well, now it's too bright. On top of fighting Scarecrow in the Arkham Knight, you've also been exposed to a little bit of Scarecrow's fear toxin, making you hallucinate the Joker, who in this universe is deceased. Speaking of fear toxin, I have some. Look, I got it on Etsy. Look, hold on. It swirls around. Sorry, anyways. Fighting these ghosts of your past as you try to fight through thugs, boss battles, and other challenges to stop Scarecrow, you have to face a lot of risk, sacrifice, and introspection, but by doing so, you're able to overcome the Joker as he fights to take over your mind, thus making yourself immune to Scarecrow's fear toxin. Yes, you have to suspend your disbelief a lot more to make that make sense, but hush, whatever. However, during this, Scarecrow also reveals your identity as Bruce Wayne to all of Gotham, and I guess possibly all of the world, considering how accessible his live stream is. Anyways, once Scarecrow is defeated and the Arkham Knight disappears into the night, See what I did there? Deathstroke returns for a rematch after y'all's battle in Arkham Origins, and he then leads the last remaining of Jason's militia, which you ultimately take down along with Deathstroke and end the game by activating Nightfall Protocol, which is blowing up Wayne Manor with you and Alfred in it. That's the general idea of the game. There's also like side quests and all that. Let's start with this, and I know that some of my arguments later on in this video might be less popular or met with counterpoints, and that's fine, but I'm not budging on this. Outside of the comic books, Arkham Knight is the best adaptation of Gotham we've ever seen. It's like a combo of Batman Begins Gotham and The Batman's Gotham, while also being 30 times better than both of them combined. The atmosphere of this game is almost mesmerizing in how good it is. When I think of Gotham, I think of this city. The monorails, the rain, the cityscape that's almost like overflowing with buildings and skyscrapers, the eerie illuminations of the neon lights. Like, this is Gotham, and you can fight me on it. Actually, no you can't. Argue with the wall. But on top of how the city looks visually, the design and attention to detail are also wonderful. The city is made to where it's basically impossible to walk around on foot. That's a bit of an exaggeration, but I mean, if you aren't in the Batmobile, then you're gonna be stopped every few seconds by thugs trying to beat you. The atmosphere of this game is designed to where you really have to rely on grappling around like Goth Spider-Man or driving around in the Batmobile, which I know was annoying to a lot of people, and even I'll admit it took me a while to warm up to the Batmobile being used so much, but after I started just to look at it like any other tool, I really didn't mind it. Plus, driving, gliding, and grappling allows you to take in all of the sights of the city and its fun little bits. Like LexCorp, aka Lex Luthor's company, or Sionis Industries, aka Black Mask, or even smaller than that, the statues and billboards will randomly have Joker replacing one model on the billboard, but then when you turn to look back at it, the billboard is normal again. It's really cool. And it's just visually nice to look at, even aside from the little Easter eggs. Like, you don't even need to have a deep knowledge of the Batman universe to enjoy the atmosphere. It's gothic, it's gritty, and it's cool. Aside from the city views, there's also so much attention to detail in the characters. From Batman to Gordon to characters with smaller roles like Azrael or Alfred, the characters are all great, not just visually, but their characterization as well. Obviously, Rocksteady benefited from the massive amounts of subject material they could pull from, so it's not like they invented these characters or anything, but I think the majority of these characters that have at least some focus aren't just these flat bad guys. Mostly. There were definitely characters like that weird priest guy that were pretty two-dimensional and or just simple to defeat, but there's also a lot of depth in Bruce, Joker, Professor Pig, Arkham Knight, the Riddler, that aren't flat and can have very interesting stories within the main story. And these characters are also used to introduce new bat weapons and tools in a way that isn't forced or feels like you're being put through a video game tutorial, you know? Like, oh, there's a serial killer going around Gotham leaving corpses that you need to identify. Good thing we have this deep scanner mode. Or Harley Quinn changed the voice recognition into the Batcave that's in the old theater. Good thing Lucius Fox made this voice manipulator thing that we can use to not only get into the Batcave, but can also be used throughout the game to defeat your foes by imitating the voices of various characters. But aside from the introduction to gadgets, most of the bosses slash side characters have an amount of depth to them that maybe to a hardcore Bat fan isn't really praiseworthy, but I think it's a good way to get more casual fans that are playing more so for the video game aspect rather than the fact that it's Batman into Batman. Like, what's this Bloodhaven place that's mentioned when talking about this Nightwing guy? Why is the Riddler so insufferable and obsessed with looking intellectually superior? What happened to Harley Quinn that made her so in love with Joker that even when he's in that crusty old man's body, she's still like into it? I don't know. Read the comics, babes. This is something I like a lot about this game. It's a video game first and foremost, so you don't really need to be a huge Batman fan to play and enjoy it, but it's also a Batman story, so if you aren't a huge gamer but you love Batman, you can also enjoy the game. Also, this game has some of the most comic accurate characters we've seen outside of the comic books. Yeah, I said it, be mad, stay mad, like the video, because why not? Like, I love Matt Reeves and Paul Dano's iteration of the Riddler in 2022's The Batman. We know I love that Riddler, but that Riddler is very much not comic accurate. And that's not to say that a character needs to be comic accurate to be good. If you write and design your iteration of a character well enough, I don't think it matters. Example is, again, Paul Dano's Riddler, and also the Joker from The Dark Knight. It's not really an accurate take on the character, but it's well done enough that it doesn't even matter. But with that being said, I think it's understandably really nice for a character from a comic book that you really like to be done justice when it's removed from the comic book medium. And Arkham Knight does a lot of characters justice, in my opinion. The Riddler, Professor Pig, Ivy, Penguin, Joker, I could go on. I like that for the most part, integral parts of various characters weren't sacrificed for the sake of just making a fighting game, and the enjoyment of the game was for the most part not sacrificed for fan service, you know? Again, for the most part, okay? There's also the actual story, which despite its flaws that I'll get into, I love the story. Am I biased because Scarecrow and Jason are two of my favorite Batman characters? Yeah, what about it? What are you gonna do? This is my channel. I can be as biased as I want. That's not true, actually. I like to be unbiased. I will say, obviously, this is a more biased analysis of the game because even though I recognize its flaws, I fucking love the game. But anyways, Batman is a lot more of a nuanced character than he is often portrayed in, like, I guess, common media outside of the comic books. And the depth of his character is honestly a bit memed, you know what I'm talking about, Batman after breaking every bone in someone's body instead of killing them or whatever. But in all seriousness, Batman's code is very debatable, as is his entire character, and I don't think that that's ever really been explored much outside of the comics until Arkham Knight. Bruce Wayne is okay with making himself judge and jury, but not executioner. However, he has no issue with inflicting damage to his enemies. His actions are at times more influenced by his own desires rather than what is actually right, and because of this, he is obviously a vigilante rather than a hero. But looking at that, like really, really sitting back and looking at it, how is the existence of Batman in the universe justifiable? How is it okay for Bruce to indoctrinate these teens and actual children into a life of fighting crime and putting their lives on the line at such a young age? The Robins exist as a selfish tool for Bruce to work through his own issues and to use as an emotional crutch as well as assistance in the field. And you can argue against that, that's fine, but that's what I believe firmly. Why are my lights still doing that? RIP to my fucking lights, I guess. Bro, that's... Anyways, sorry about the technical difficulties today. You could argue how some of these Robins, like Tim Drake, seek out the role, or how Jason and Dick really liked being Robin, and Damian being Robin is better than what he would be doing if he was still with Talia al Ghul. And while that may be true, if Bruce cared about the Robins in the pure way of a rich orphan seeing an orphan that needs guidance, he, as Bruce, could fund orphanage reform in Gotham or put these kids through school and give them care without giving them a vigilante identity. Because, let's face it, putting an 8-year-old in spandex and sending him off to fight grown-ass men is irresponsible, no matter how you try and spin it. Now, I'm not trying to be a buzzkill, okay? I love the Robins. This isn't me saying that the Robins are a bad idea. And I know that, obviously, this doesn't matter, like, outside of the DC universe. Like, looking at it as just the reader in the real world, these characters are made up, and that's just the way they were added to the story, and that is the way it is, and they're great essential characters. I'm not saying they shouldn't exist because it's not, like, ethical or whatever, but immersing yourself into the universe and looking at them as people rather than characters, you can't help but criticize Batman's methods of recruitment in terms of sidekicks. Another critique of Bruce, yes, these critiques are relevant to the video, I swear, is his code. As we all know, Batman doesn't kill, and as we all probably know, this isn't because it would be too hard or that he thinks it's like morally wrong in comparison to just beating the shit out of someone. Batman doesn't kill because it would be too easy. He would like it too much and he wouldn't be able to stop, and then at that point, how is he any different from the people he's killing? And while this does make sense, I think the code is flawed and is also another example of Bruce's maybe not selfishness, but another time where he puts his self-preservation before true justice. And I know that it's debatable in terms of what's justice and what's vengeance. Haha, get it, I'm vengeance. But justice and vengeance are arguably very similar, the big difference being that justice aims to right a wrong, whereas vengeance aims to get even. And in a city like Gotham, where the system is corrupt and outnumbered by those with ill intention, vengeance can act in the place of justice. Anyways, the idea of not killing because then you'd be just as bad as the person you're killing only works to an extent. First of all, you don't need to kill everybody. I know that his whole thing is that he wouldn't be able to stop himself, but like, Jesus Christ, have some fucking self-control, see a therapist, whatever. If you can control yourself long enough to not kill people when you really, really want to, I feel like it wouldn't be that hard to center that self-control into only killing when necessary. But whatever. The bigger issue is that At some points, not killing a certain person is more damaging than killing them. The very obvious example of this is the Joker. We should all know by now, Batman and Joker are two sides of the same coin. One will never exist without the other, and Batman will never kill him, even at times where he really wants to. But at some point, it's like, come on, man. Joker, while being an incredibly interesting and entertaining character, is evil. And a lot of the atrocious shit that he does is overlooked because this, like, funny, crazy anti-society guy is, like, more marketable and, I guess, okay with general audiences. But, like, in the comics, he is fucked up. And letting him live causes more damage than killing him. And at that point, when you're allowing bad things to happen to innocent people just because you can't control yourself, why are you doing what you do? If you have the power to stop evil and you don't, how are you not just as bad? I bring up both the points of the Robins and the point of the code because they are brought up in the character of Jason Todd, aka the Arkham Knight. Jason is the physical embodiment of the repercussions of Bruce's selfishness. Jason was about 15 when he dies at the hands of the Joker, give or take a year, because keeping track of the ages of the Bat fam is difficult with the amounts of like retconning and reboots there's been, but even still, giving or taking a year, he was a teenager when he was beaten and blown up and killed. Yes, Jason put himself in the situation with Joker, but for one, he was trying to do what Bruce refuses to for the good of Gotham. I don't really see that as a flop move. And for two, it doesn't matter because he shouldn't have been in that position in the first place because, again, it isn't right for Bruce to take these orphans off the street, give them a burger, and then train them to fight and become vigilantes. Just because one of said orphans did a really good job at the job doesn't mean he should have been doing the job. Because Jason Todd is what can happen, and that is blood on Bruce's hand. On the other hand, see what I did there, is that Jason is also the embodiment of the repercussions of not killing, and also the embodiment of what Batman would be if he did kill. Mostly. To be honest, I don't fully love this comparison. While the similarities are obviously there, you know, Red Hood and Batman have the same motive of stopping the evil in Gotham, I think if Batman could just fucking, quite frankly, get his shit together and not do the whole if I kill once I won't be able to stop thing, he would not be as extreme or unforgiving as Red Hood, which is, Red Hood is also Jason Todd for those unaware. And also Jason Todd doesn't even kill like every single person, but whatever Bruce. And I know that wouldn't happen, like I know that if he killed he wouldn't stop because, you know, that's his whole thing, and to change that or make it to where he could pick and choose who he would kill would honestly just be weird because it's not the Batman way. I'm not saying it's something that needs to change. I'm just saying it's a flaw in his character, which is fine. Again, removing yourself from the universe, a character having flaws or such complexities as Bruce Wayne is good. It makes for an interesting character with interesting storylines. And Red Hood actually brings up the same issue I have in Under the Red Hood, that it wouldn't be murdering every single petty criminal or Riddler or Two-Face, but letting such extreme dangers like the Joker live is wrong, especially after he killed Bruce's own son. And he also goes on to, I'm pretty sure he fucking kills Barbara. All of his kids die. Bruce's kids all die at some point. Dick dies, Damian dies, everyone dies, okay? Bruce dies too.
I don't know what clouds your judgment worse, your guilt or your antiquated sense of morality. Bruce, I forgive you for not saving me. But why? Why on God's earth is he still alive? Ignoring what he's done in the past. Blindly, stupidly disregarding the entire graveyards he's filled, the thousands who have suffered, the friends he's crippled. You know, I thought I'd be the last person you'd ever let him hurt.
You don't understand. I don't think you've ever understood.
What? What, your moral code just won't allow for that? It's too hard to cross that line?
No! God Almighty, no! It'd be too damned easy. All I've ever wanted to do is kill him. But if I do that, if I allow myself to go down into that place, I'll never come back.
I'm not talking about killing Penguin, or Scarecrow, or Dent. I'm talking about him. Just him. And doing it because he took me away from you.
So connecting this to the Arkham Knight, it's kind of the same as Under the Red Hood, though with a different storyline. Instead of the Red Hood alias, Jason is the Arkham Knight, and instead of taking control of the drug trade and doing Batman's job better, arguably. He pairs up with the Scarecrow and has the goal of killing Bruce. In Arkham Knight, Bruce has to both face and fight these ghosts from his past, Joker and Jason, both of which are commonly known as Batman's biggest failures, and in doing so, he, and therefore you as the player, have to face the detriment of Batman's few but fatal flaws. And I love that. I love that. In more mainstream Batman media, we aren't often given the opportunity to look at the flaws. I mean, really, the most we get is like, Bruce, don't isolate yourself from your allies. That's not good for you. Rather than, Bruce, your existence is a paradox because you actively allow the crimes you claim to want to stop due to your own self-preservation. I love that media outside of the comics is starting to really add more dimension to Bruce, because I think for a lot of people that just know of the character through more popular movies, maybe don't get why people are so into the comics. Like, isn't it just the same story over and over? Isn't it just the good guy beating the bad guy? How many times is Batman gonna beat up the Joker and say, I'm vengeance? Am I right? Hee hee ha ha. But there is so much depth and complexity that is explored in the comics that doesn't always make it to the big screen, and Arkham Knight partially serves as a link between the comic crowd and the casual fan. And I'm always in favor of linking the casual crowd and the comic fans because, obviously being blind, I fucking love this stuff. I think it's so cool and there's so much to explore, and I would love for more people to understand why I love the Batman universe as much as I do. But after going through all the things that I think are great about this game, I can't ignore the one thing that stops it from being the perfect Batman media. Its nearsighted story. Something I noticed during my playthrough of the game is that it seems to have trouble writing endings. Video games don't necessarily have acts in the same way that movies do, but I think in games like this where there's a campaign with a linear story, you can kind of place acts in it. For me, I've set Act 1 as the beginning of the game up until Arkham Knight reveals his identity to Bruce. Act 2 is from that point up until Scarecrow is defeated, and Act 3 is from that point until the end of the game when you activate Nightfall Protocol. Act 3 of this game is the worst, and it's where a lot of critiques come in from people that have played the game. For me, Act 3 seems like the developers and storyboarders had the idea up until the player defeats Scarecrow, and they were kind of like, okay, now how do we end this? Where can we go from here now that the world knows that Batman is Bruce Wayne? And I actually think that they had Nightfall Protocol planned from the beginning and just needed a way to get from Scarecrow being locked up to Bruce killing himself and Alfred without it just kind of jumping there immediately, because while the ending we get is unsatisfying, ending it that way would have been so much worse. So to try and rectify this, they bring back Deathstroke, aka Slade Wilson. We actually fought him in the previous Arkham game, Arkham Origins. He comes in basically out of nowhere and takes over as the main villain to get his revenge on us for locking him up. The issue with that is that it just kind of feels like you placed a band-aid over a cracked window. Deathstroke is severely underutilized the entire time he's present in the game. He's 90% just a taunting voice after we take down his militia, and 10% a boss fight that's just fighting him in a tank, which was literally easier than the boss fight tank fight between the Arkham Knight. The actual physical character gets more screen time in the death scenes when you're killed by his militia rather than in actual gameplay. It was already a weird choice to just have this third guy come in when you've already defeated your main enemies, but it's even weirder when the guy to replace your enemies is no harder to defeat than one of the side bosses like Professor Pig. If you're going to introduce a new villain after you've spent the whole game fighting the other villains, it's kind of implied that this guy is going to be just as or even harder to defeat. But then you beat him and it's just like, really? That's it? Now I have the choices of going and doing 200 Riddler puzzles or doing a joint suicide with Alfred? I guess I'll take the latter, which leads to my other issue, the actual ending. I have no problem with Batman dying, although it's a common theory that he and Alfred fake their own deaths, but I also have something to say about that, but just wait. However, it feels incomplete. Not open-ended, incomplete. The way the game ends, at least the first ending, is that you fly back to Wayne Manor and there's a bunch of media and random people outside because now the world knows that you're Bruce Wayne. You walk up the stairs of the manor where Alfred is waiting, you give each other a somber goodbye, and then the building explodes and goes up in flames. Then in a voiceover, Commissioner Gordon is heard saying, "This is how it happened. This is how the Batman died." And then roll credits. It's abrupt, and in contrast to everything we had gone through during the campaign, it's unsatisfying. Not the fact that he dies, but the fact that there's no dwelling on it. There's no tying up on loose ends or lamenting on the death. That's why it feels incomplete. It also feels very nearsighted. It's an ending that works if you don't think about it for too long, because when you do start to think about it, it doesn't really make sense. The general assumption is that Bruce and Alfred actually faked their deaths, because when you go back into the game and complete every single side mission, you get the full ending, which shows life after Bruce's death. Tim and Barbara are getting married, which, side note, what? Of all the adjustments to make between the comics and the Arkhamverse, that was such a weird choice, and it just felt like really forced writing to justify Tim being in the game, which sucks because I actually like Tim Drake. I think he's often overlooked because of Dick Grayson, but Tim is a good Robin, and he deserved to have more presence in the game outside of this kind of dumb storyline created because of his relationship with Barbara, who's like, listen, Barbara and Dick are messy, right? They're messy and they're on and off, and there's a lot to say there. But they are the for-lifers. I'm sorry, but they are. And Dick was in the game. Why? Anyways, it doesn't matter. They're getting married, weird, but congrats. And then a wealthy-looking couple and their son are seen walking down an alleyway where two guys try to mug them, an obvious reference to the death of Bruce's parents. However, a Batman-shaped figure can be seen on the rooftop, and then it transforms into this giant flaming bat beast and then flies at the camera, and then roll credits for real this time. That's the real ending of the game. So now that we know the real ending of the game, it still doesn't work. Other than it just not really being a satisfying ending, it's nearsighted in the fact that it doesn't acknowledge any of its repercussions. The immediate one I had when I finished the game was, you're kind of fucking people over here, Bruce. How hard would someone have to look before putting together the pieces of Batman's allies? Sure, Bruce never legally adopted Dick Grayson, although that can be argued because of retconning, but like regardless, he was recognized as Bruce's ward, meaning he was his legal responsibility. Dick lived at Wayne Manor, he was put into school by Bruce. There are a lot of things that link the two together. So knowing that Bruce was Batman, it wouldn't take a lot of hard thinking to link Dick Grayson to Robin, now Nightwing. The same can happen to Tim, which Bruce did legally adopt. It wouldn't be hard at all to then figure out who Robin is, and you could keep going, you could keep looking at the links. Hey Gordon, you were close to Batman, did you know his identity? Your daughter is getting married to Tim Drake, who we've now figured out is Robin, so now you and your daughter are also suspicious. There was no contingency plan set for Batman's allies. The Nightfall Protocol doesn't actually solve the problem, it just makes it no longer Bruce's cross to bear. Another thing I view as nearsighted in the ending is just the whole Bat creature thing. It's widely accepted that Bruce is still fighting crime under a different alias and is now using Scarecrow's fear toxin because, sure, I guess being exposed to it and also becoming immune to it due to plot armor then gives you fear toxin powers because plot armor, why not? But won't that only work for so long? The Batman identity is dependent on its anonymity. We already saw a glimpse of what would happen if his identity is revealed. He was viewed differently and a lot of people stopped fearing him. We even saw it in the full ending. The two thugs see the Batman silhouette before it transforms and are like, we don't care, we know you're Bruce Wayne, and Bruce Wayne's a punk-ass bitch. So sure, the new transformation thing works for now, but it's not gonna work forever if Bruce still functions as he did when he was Batman. When people realize it's still Bruce Wayne in just a scarier costume, how long before people develop ways of overlooking it? Especially when they learn that he's still not killing people. I get that it's supposed to be a little glimmer of like, Batman forever, you know, we can't kill the main character, Gotham still needs someone watching over it, which is true. So then make an ending where Bruce passes the mantle, where the city is in better hands than he ever had it in, because hot take, Batman's greatest achievement is that he forged crime fighters better than he ever was. But anyway, to kill off Bruce Wayne just to put him back in the same position he was in is weirdly closed-minded, and the ending of this game is disappointing. And that is why Batman Arkham Knight is the almost perfect Batman story. So what'd you guys think? I'm very excited to see you guys' responses because this is my first time reviewing a video game and I would like to keep doing this because I have a lot of thoughts to say and I know that the Arkhamverse has, I guess, a somewhat large fan base. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. Thank you. How are you guys? Sorry, I don't know why I'm being awkward in this outro. I'm gonna go now. Thank you for watching this video. If you like the video, like the video. If you like the video, comment on the video. If you like the video, subscribe to the video maker, and I will see you in the next video. Okay, thanks, bye.